Hey plant fan! Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Jacqueline and this is my jungle. So today I wanted to talk about how to get your Hoya to bloom. So this is kind of a follow-up to my last video because I just basically was like, hey, look, here's my Hoya bloom, and I was pretty lazy about it, I won't lie, but I just wanted to like document the process of these opening up because I've never witnessed it before, and I can't do time lapse because I don't have an extra camera to set up for that or space to do that. So I just kind of took some footage here and there and compiled it for you. So if you didn't watch that, go on ahead and do that, but I am going to put a little bit of footage in here now so you could see this better. So yeah, I got a lot of questions about like what I've done to get this plant to bloom, how long I've had the plant for, and all of that. So I don't know why I didn't talk about that in the first one, but we're gonna talk about it today. So I'm gonna be giving you my top things that I think are important to get your Hoya to bloom. Granted, I'm not an expert. I haven't done anything special to this plant to get it to bloom. It's really just a matter of giving it the right environment. So these things I think are what I've gathered from my own journey and from the internet to be the most important factors to giving it the proper environment for it to bloom and thrive. So let's get into it. This is my second time filming this, by the way, because I did the whole thing and forgot to turn my microphone on. These are really not in any particular order, but I do think that this first one is the most important one, and that is the amount of sun that you're giving these plants. So I have this babe in a southeast facing window, so she's getting morning light that's more gentle. That eastern morning light. I am in the northeast region of the United States, by the way, so I know that this information will vary based on where you are in the world, but for me, my southeast window gives me gentle morning light and then consistent indirect light throughout the day. So this plant is getting lots of sun, but nothing direct, and I think that is the key here. They like a lot of light, but not direct sunlight, because they actually will burn. And I do have some leaves here that, I don't know if you can tell, have a little bit of sun damage that may have just been too close to the window. I rotate her daily to make sure that like no part of her is actually getting sun for extended periods of time compared to the rest of the plant. She is also variegated, and I know that variegated plants can handle a little bit more sunlight, so this does vary Hoya to Hoya. But I'm speaking a little bit more generally when I'm talking about these top like tips or whatever you want to call them. So obviously there are exceptions to a lot of these things because each Hoya is going to be different. But today I'm mostly talking about the Hoya Carnosa and, you know, other more easygoing Hoyas. He's also getting some supplemental ambient grow lights from the side that's not facing the window. I have my southeast window is here. I have all my Hoya in that window, or at least close to that window. They seem to really enjoy it there. And I have a mirror that's directly across from it. So that mirror is actually reflecting a lot of that light throughout the day. And then there's another window. I have some grow lights throughout the room. So there's lots of ambient light that's going on in here too. There's no plant in here that is getting no sun, no light, if that makes sense. So you definitely want to make sure that they're getting enough light or they're just simply not going to bloom or grow much. So the number two thing that I think is important for getting your Hoya to bloom is allowing the plant to dry out between watering. Hoya, for the most part, there are exceptions to this, are not just drought tolerant, but they prefer it to a certain extent. So if you allow your plant to dry out thoroughly between watering, it's actually going to promote blooms and growth. So one of the reasons why the plant flowers when you haven't watered it is because it's kind of going into like a survival mode where it's like, oh shoot, I'm not getting water, I might be dying, let me try and put out a flower so that I can spread my seed. I don't really know. That sounds weird, but that's basically what it's doing. Obviously, there's kind of a gray area with that. You don't want to let the plant get too dry for too long either. So one of the ways that you can tell if your Hoya needs to be watered is the Nick Pileggi coined this, the taco test. So you just kind of take some of the leaves and bend them like a taco. And you can tell by how stiff they are if they need water or not. So like I just watered this one, so it's not, it's, my cat's crying outside the door. It's its normal amount of stiff right now. You should check some leaves that are at the bottom as well as at the base to make sure that you're getting an accurate depiction of whether or not your plant needs to be watered. He makes me feel like such a bad mother if I don't let him in, but then if I let him in, he's just gonna be all up in everything. Hold on, let me go let him in. Right. Hey, if you're gonna come in and be annoying, you might as well say hi to everybody. Come here. Taking his sweet ass time. Come here. I'm sorry for rubbing on the microphone. Say hi. No, if you're gonna be annoying and come in here, then you're gonna fucking hang out, you know? So yeah, let your Hoya dry out between watering. So this babe is still in her nursery container. I have not taken her out. I have not done anything at all to her soil. And if anything, I think that they like being in their nursery containers or even in ceramic, because I've noticed that when I put my Hoya in terracotta that they just dry out like insanely fast because you've got them in this well-draining soil. No, stay. You've got them in this well-draining soil and then you've also got them in terracotta. So it's like sucking out all the water, like all of it. I think that's how I actually killed one of my Hoya because it was just like I ended up overwatering it. Let them dry out, but be mindful also of like what you have them in. So make sure that you have it in a good soil mixture, which I get that varies depending on your climate and the pot that you have it in, because like I said before, if you have it in terracotta, it's going to dry out faster than if you leave it in a plastic nursery container or put it in ceramic. I use my regular mix that I use for all of my epiphytic plants. So Hoya is considered an epiphyte, which just means that it will grow on trees and other plants, but it's not parasitic, so it doesn't hurt the plant. They like a really well-draining, aerated, like chunkier mixture. My legs are hurting. Sorry, I'm sitting on the floor. Me personally, I just use my regular mix that I always use, which is a spoma, regular potting soil, or I'll even use cactus mix because I think that one just has more perlite than the other. Then I use the orchid mix that has the orchid bark in it, or I'll add orchid bark, honestly, whatever I have. And perlite, I've been throwing some charcoal in there, worm castings, of course, to fertilize. And yeah, my plants seem to like it. So, but this plant, I don't know what's going on in there, to be honest with you. Like I said, have not repotted it since I got it. And it was in the nursery for a while, I think. It seemed like it anyway before I bought it, that it had been there for a while, which is crazy to me. I don't know who wouldn't want this, but I'm glad that it was there waiting for me. Because it was there, I had seen it a lot, and it kept sticking in my mind, and I was like, that plant is so beautiful. I was literally dreaming about it. I was talking to my boyfriend at the time, like, I can't stop thinking about this plant, and he was like, just go get the dang plant. I just never had a Hoya, and I wasn't sure if it was gonna be happy in my environment, so I did tons and tons of research and decided to put it in the southeast window here and to hope for the best, and I think it's working. The third thing that's important, that's kind of related to that, is fertilizing. Because again, if you've had your plant in its original nursery container, like this one has been for God knows how long, the soil's old and it hasn't got any nutrients left to it. So it's kind of up to you to make sure that you're feeding your plant so that it has energy to bloom. Because it does take a lot of energy out of the plant for it to bloom. And I think that's why a lot of people will cut the blooms off of certain plants to make sure that they're not taking too much energy away from the foliage growing. So the only thing that I've actually done to fertilize this plant since getting it is just putting worm castings in the soil. So I haven't used a liquid fertilizer yet. Do you hear him purring? I'm petting him to keep him from climbing into all the crap that's in here, but now he's just purring like mad. So yeah, another way to fertilize these two is a lot of people use orchid spray fertilizer. I have never done that, but a lot of people enjoy it and see success with it and have seen their Hoya grow a lot faster. So it couldn't hurt. He's so cute, I can't stand it though. So the fourth thing that I think is important for getting your Hoya to bloom is understanding that they usually only bloom on more mature plants and more mature, longer vines. It's important to make sure that you're not cutting too much of these vines. And I know that it's tempting for some people when they see these tendrils that don't have any leaves on it. This one's finally growing some leaves, but this one used to be whacking me in the face. Extremely long and just sticking out like a weirdo. And, you know, I can see how it's tempting to want to cut that off if you didn't know any better. But don't do it, because that is where you're going to get your peduncles. So this is where one of the blooms were. That died off and fell off, but you can still see that it happened right here at the end of this long vine. It did have a little bit more, but once the bloom opened up, I noticed that the rest of the vine died off and got woody and fell off. So I don't know if that's like a natural process of the plant, because this one kind of looks like it's doing the same thing here. It's getting like this red color and it looks like it might die off up to where the bloom started. So I'm not really sure how that works, but mature plants. So I wouldn't expect any of my cuttings that aren't established to be blooming anytime soon, or any of my little baby plants. I'm still hoping that maybe this one will bloom for me because it is growing and going crazy, and it's in the window right next to this one. So, but that brings me to my next thing, which is whether or not these plants want to be root bound. Some people say that they like to be root bound for them to flower, but I'm a little bit iffy on that. I think it's important for the roots to be well established and for the plant to be mature for it to bloom. But I don't think it's good to be leaving plants extremely root bound for long periods of time. I mean, it's like they don't have any soil or nutrients left. So the fifth thing that I think is important for getting your Hoyas to bloom is the temperature. Granted, it's not that warm here, but as soon as it got warm is when I noticed the peduncles. They took about a month to go from peduncle to bloom, but which you would have seen in my last video. I don't think that they need a lot of humidity. I know that some people think that they might prefer it for them to bloom, but I don't keep any humidity loving plants in here. I don't have any calathea or anything like that anymore for that reason, because they just do not do well in here, and I am not trying to get a humidifier anytime soon. So I just stick to plants that are okay in a drier climate. And it does get humid here. Like, it's been humid actually for like a week now, and my plants seem to be loving it. So maybe it does help, but I don't think that it's necessarily an essential thing. I just think that they prefer a warmer temperature is all. So a lot of people actually will put their Hoya outside in the warmer months, like if you have a deck or a patio or something where you can do that, it might help your Hoya bloom. But like I said, I'm not an expert. I have only been a plant parent for about a year now. This is just what I've done and what I've gathered from doing a little bit of research on the internet about, you know, how other people have gotten their Hoyas to bloom. So I haven't really done anything different with this plant than I've done with any of my plants. I just think that the environment that you keep it in is really important, and as long as you're on top of when to water it properly and when to feed it, I mean, yeah, but I think that's important for any plant. So it's nothing really special. It's really just getting to know your plants, which probably sounds weird, but I feel like each of my plants has their own personality, and they all like different things, and you kind of have to get to know what they want and understand what they're trying to tell you, if that makes sense. So this plant tells me when she's thirsty, and I give her a drink. When it comes to feeding her, I kind of just, I obviously don't put worm castings in there all the time. I just do it maybe like once a month before I water the plant. So yeah, that's it. I wrote them down. Look at me planning for videos and stuff. Who am I? I've been a little bit unmotivated lately to film, but now my semester is over, so we're good. I'm feeling a little creative again, and like I'm ready to actually make some content that I would want to watch. So I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Thumbs up for the bloom. Comment down below what your favorite Hoya is, maybe what your wish list Hoya is. Do you have any Hoya? Do you want Hoya? Why don't you have any Hoya? My cat's crying. Can't handle it. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and thank you again for watching. I will see you in the next one. I'll let my crazy cat out.